All right. Good evening. It is 6:30. Today is Thursday, April 8th, April 11th, and this is the Olentangy Local Schools Board of Education meeting. We're in the Berlin room. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order. Ms. Hatfield, please call the roll.
Mr. Bartz?
Here.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Here.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mrs. Patrick?
Here.
And Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any changes or amendments to the agenda? No?
No, sir. As
So
presented.
with that, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the agenda? No, please call the roll.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 5, we have our presentations. Our first presentation is the One and Only Club at Scioto Ridge Elementary. If you guys would come forward, please.
Hi.
All righty. We just want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, come on up, to speak tonight and share with you what our One and Only Club has been doing this year at Scioto Ridge to help promote diversity and inclusion. My name is Erica Percio, and I'm a first grade teacher. This is my second year being the diversity liaison, and it's a role I take great pride in having. I've also had the pleasure, who's back there, to have Jolene Nagel, a parent in our building, work alongside me at every meeting. So our mission is to create a safe environment where students learn about each other, celebrate and accept each other's differences, and feel empowered to make change in the world. We meet the first Tuesday of every month before school begins, and on average, there's about 35 to 45 students that come in grades 1 through 5. So tonight I have Michael Cromhout, Sarah Nagel, and Shreya Shah, who are a part of our club, that are going to talk to you about the different activities that we have engaged in to meet our mission this year.
Hi, my name is Sarah Nagel, and I am in 3rd grade at Miss Podner's class at Scioto Ridge Elementary. Our October meeting, Miss Percio read a book, It's Okay to Be Different by Todd Parr. Afterwards, each person in our club made small posters that said, it's okay to, and students filled in an idea they had. Some of the ideas were, it's okay to wear bows, it's okay for boys to have long hair, or it's okay to like different things. These papers hang all over the Scioto Ridge. Our hope is that these have been wonderful reminders to students that it's okay to be different.
Hi, my name is Shreya. I am a 5th grader at Scioto Ridge Elementary School. My teachers are Miss Stanley and Mrs. Kurtz. During our November meeting, our club collected items such as candy, gum, baby wipes, and toothbrushes. In December, we used these items to fill 22 boxes. These boxes were then sent to military men and women who live in Olentangy or are related to an Olentangy family. We know that these goodies have cheered up these active military men and women when they couldn't be with their families during the holidays.
Another thing that I started last year was Diversity Week. It started out last year as a day, and it's come to be a whole week. It's the second week of December, and our school participates in lessons and activities and listen to guest speakers who have a deep passion for celebrating individuality. Mr. Jervich kicked off our week about how we can include others, celebrate what makes us unique, and also challenge us to spread kindness. The following day, the entire school met on the field and spelled peace. Throughout the week, we involved parents and community members who taught us about how our brains are wired and how each person responds to situations differently. We had a parent come in and teach us Indian meditation, and Mr. George, the infamous Delaware librarian, shared literature that promotes diversity and inclusion. Towards the end of the week, we have stations set up in our gym. We had parents, high school students, and other community professionals that run each station. This has been a great way to build relationships both inside our school and out. Some of them are the Ohio State School for the Blind, the Ohio State School for the Deaf, Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and Ganshorn Memory Care, just to name a few of the organizations who help make this day memorable. We also had many performers through the week, the taiko drumming group, Irish step dancers, and an Indian dance group. And then one evening we had a pizza and paint night where families came together to eat and paint a canvas that related to our theme of peace. I would like to say thank you to my principal, Melanie Andrus, for always being supportive and making my vision come to life.
After coming back from winter break, our group decided to make positive post-it notes for the 4th and 5th grade students in our building. Then the inspiration came from the book we read, Ordinary Mary's Extraordinary Deed. These were hung up on each locker one evening, and when they came in the next morning, they had a positive message to start their day. Even to this day, many are still up.
Hello, my name is Michael Krumhout, and I attend Scioto Ridge Elementary. I'm in 5th grade, and my homeroom teacher is Mrs. Shirk. During the month of February, Terry Glimsher from Ganshorn Memory Care Center came in and talked to us about the residents who lived there as a way of paying it forward. We made warm, loving, and welcoming Valentine's Day cards for the residents there.
During our March meeting, we played a game called People Bingo. This allowed us to get to know each other even better. We went around and found one person per bingo square that fit that statement. For example, someone who traveled to another country. We had fun getting to know different kids in our club.
To finish our year, every student at SRES will create a rock during their art class. Our teacher, Miss Bell, will be assisting us when making these unique and special rocks. These rocks will be on display as you walk into our school for years to come. We'll also be designing a rock for each grade level. Thank you for having us tonight.
I have a comment. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for joining us. That was wonderful. I wanted to say to the students and staff at Scioto Ridge, my daughter had the pleasure of doing Teacher Academy there last year, and she came home in the spring after I think it was a kindness or a pay it forward type of presentation. She said, "Mom, I cried today." I said, "Why did you cry?" She goes, "These kids, they're just so kind and sweet in the things they're doing. There's great hope for our future." She's like, "My brother's class, not so much, but these kids definitely." So whatever you're doing over there, it's amazing, and keep it up.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm curious about the art garden. I think did you call it garden? The stones?
Stones?
Is that permanent? Will that be permanent?
That will be permanent, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very clever way to say welcome to the building.
Yeah.
Very colorful.
All right, anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so
for the
much.
presentation.
Thank you very
Terrific. All right, the next presentation item, we originally were just going to cover it during the President's Report. We thought it was important enough to pull it out on its own. I've asked Emily to give us an update, or Ms. Hatfield, give us an update on the movement in the state budget.
Skipping Randy? Did you skip Randy? Or did we move?
I can get through there without revealing anything.
About school funding, so while you may think, geez, what does a treasurer do all day but sit in her office? Emily's out lobbying for school funding.
Yes.
Sit in your
All
office.
day she was sitting
All
at the
day.
State House.
We never let her out.
All day.
At the State House, yes. That was an adventure and a half, which I'll get to at the end of the presentation. But I did want to start by going over the two components of what's at stake right now with the state budget. And one of the two presentations are proposals that are available for the public to kind of look at this time. Can you guys hear me okay? I feel like the microphone kind of cut in and out a little bit.
Everything is froze up on us.
That's okay. We're going to go for it because I think it'll catch up to us. We'll be fine. So first, let's talk about the governor's proposal, which is House Bill 166. Each 2 years or each biennium cycle, the governor is responsible for putting out a state budget. And right now we have a budget that is out from the governor that holds K-12 education funding flat. They do have additional dollars in support for student wellness and success, which are wraparound services, meaning that while our foundation funding will not change, they are proposing to add an additional $250 million in fiscal year 20 and $50 million in fiscal year 2021 for those wraparound services statewide. Some of those services are described as mental health counseling, mentoring, supports in dental, vision, and medical care, and after-school programs. So some of these programs we're already working on as a district with our current funding. Oh, thank you. Here we go. Thank you. Funding simulations for Olentangy indicate that we would receive an additional $617,000 in fiscal year 20, which is about $30.51 per pupil, and $753,000 in fiscal year 21 for these additional supports. Unfortunately, while that is, we're happy to take any additional funding that we would receive, those are minimal amounts to our overall $230 million budget. So the next proposal, or the Fair School Funding Plan, is a bipartisan plan that Representatives Cupp and Patterson have been working on. They have a work group that has been supporting this effort for more than a year now of treasurers and superintendents who are working to devise a way to fairly fund all students in the state of Ohio. The basis of their research is to come up with a base cost per student and then take a look at allocations for wealth and other components so that each student in the state is supported equally in the financial realm. So some key takeaways for Olentangy in this plan. The state share index as we know it would no longer exist. So the state share index that we currently have in our funding model describes wealth in a relative manner, meaning that it compares other districts in the state of Ohio to each other, as well as look at property valuation and income valuation. With the Fair School Funding model, it moves to property valuations and revenue income valuations, but looks at each district as a standalone entity rather than a comparative pool for the state, which is a much better mechanism when we're talking about continued growth and other opportunities for each district. They would also use a 3-year average of property valuations in this calculation. We would still be considered a high wealth district in this model. We are most likely to be in the highest quintile for this state. But again, they're using that local capacity calculation to take a look at those districts that still need support. So for example, the highest quintile is estimated to have $2,500 or a little more support per pupil in fiscal year 21. The simulations that we have received for our district show that we would be at $1,422. And this is because they're still proposing that while guarantees and caps are there, they want to phase them out and take those off. So we would start low on our average quintile, but then work our way up as we go through the process. If the plan was introduced and put into law as it currently stands, that would mean about $10 million in additional funding for fiscal year 20 for Olentangy, and about $9.1 million in additional funding for fiscal year 21. The simulations that have been released do not go beyond the biennium budget due to the changes and the difficulty in trying to propose future property valuations and income capacities over the state. As far as the caps and guarantees, I got a little ahead of myself, I apologize, but the guarantees and caps are expected to be eliminated in 4 years. Olentangy is an anomaly to that in that we are so far capped. The current proposal is asking us to go 6 years to be fully phased in terms of complete funding. While the plan establishes categories for funding, each district maintains local control of allocations of funds. Additional funding for preschool, special education, and transportation have been recommended. Funding for community and charter schools would no longer flow through the student's resident district. Therefore, funding would go to where the students are being educated. So this plan is estimated to spend an additional $400 million to the state in fiscal 20 and $330 in fiscal year 21 over the current funding formula. So there's a lot of pushback and back and forth about whether or not the state can afford to fully implement this and how fast they could implement such a plan. So the interesting thing that happened today is, as Mr. O'Brien mentioned, is I traveled to the State House to give testimony on behalf of our district. So we gave testimony to the Finance Subcommittee for secondary education and elementary education, and talked about what this would mean for our district and why we continue to lobby our legislators for fair funding. And the interesting thing that we've learned in the news is that most folks are looking at our numbers and looking at the simulations for this fair funding model and wondering how in the world we can justify a 200% increase in funding to one of the wealthiest communities in the state. But that 200% calculation starts at a base that's pretty much at the floor. We are currently the lowest funded per pupil district out there. And so adding 200% to $600 or less per pupil just kind of brings us up to more of a fair funding level and an equal spending opportunity across the state for students. The other key component that we testified about was our incredible growth. We have grown over 9,500 students in the last decade. We continue to grow. Our ADM, or average daily membership, that the state uses to count students, grew 400 just from fiscal year 18 to 19. And that ADM calculation is not physical students in seats, it's actually looking at students and what is called an FTE, or full-time equivalent. So we actually have more kids in our presence or in our buildings than just that number. So it was a good opportunity to discuss that with our legislators and talk to them about the impact this could have for our community and our taxpayers. This budgeting process is still a work in progress. Their hearings were completed today, but they will go back to the House and the Senate and discuss the components. You'll probably still see more in the news about what they want to add, how the components change, how they want to fund each component, and what the total cost could mean to the state. So with those will continue over the next month or two, and then the governor will sign the final proposal by June 30th into law, which will enact the budget. Unfortunately, the timing means we cannot put these assumptions into our May forecast because they'll simply just change too much. And we don't want that instability in our planning for our fiscal future. But we will continue to monitor it and give updates as they are released. And with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, so I think part of the message of why we want to have this discussion is there is some encouraging news coming out of kind of Patterson and in the progress there, but it's not done. You know, I think there's some
Correct.
articles in the paper talking about how we're going to get more funding. Well, we're far from getting it yet, right? There's a lot that can happen between now and June 30 in terms of the political environment around school funding and adding $300 to $400 million to the state budget. So I would just say we should be cautiously optimistic and continue to work with our advocacy team to kind of get the message out to make sure that the right message is being heard. It's not about a 200% increase. It's about getting equity and funding
Absolutely.
for districts that grow and perform well. So that's the key message for us.
Yeah. I got to hang out with Emily today at the steakhouse, and Mr. Rafe was there too. And I think the greatest thing to take away from this was when other school districts were testifying, our members of the House were bringing up Olentangy. And Mark, if you want to talk about what Eric Gordon said, some of you might remember Eric Gordon, who was the first principal at Liberty and an administrator here in Olentangy. He testified because he's the superintendent at Cleveland. So Mark, I was surprised to see him.
Yeah, he was testifying on behalf of the what's called the Urban Eight, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Dayton, Akron, Canton, and Youngstown, and Toledo. And the funding levels that the urban 8 districts get. And he was asked at the end of his presentation, Representative Patterson, who asked him, he said, Mr. Gordon, you're a unique individual. And Eric, of course, laughed at that and said, I've been called a lot of things. So he said, he goes, but you have the perspective of being the CEO of Cleveland Municipal School District, but you also worked in Olentangy. And he said, our committee's getting a lot of criticism about a wealthy district like Olentangy getting more funding. And, Eric said, he believes that every child in the state of, every school district in the state of Ohio should receive a fair level of funding. And he said that the level of funding our district receives is not fair because it's so low, and the effect that the cap has on it, that our funding can't continue to grow as our student population grows. And he said, interestingly, Columbus Public Schools is one of the urban 8. They're affected by the caps. They received a large increase of students last year who came back from charter schools. So they don't get their full formula funding. So Eric, Mr. Gordon was very, I was proud of him. Because it was a difficult position for him, but he's advocating for more funding for all students in the state of Ohio. So that was very encouraging.
The second time we were called out, Monroe was testifying, and they are affected by the caps like we are. And Representative Patterson said, "Well, you're just like Olentangy. Olentangy, where are you? Raise your hand." And so Emily and I raised our hands. Yeah. So it's heartening to hear that they recognize they're hearing from us. And Cupp and Patterson both said, "Oh yeah, we keep hearing from your friend Andy Brenner down there." So it is imperative. On Monday, this district sent out an email asking our residents to contact Representative Carfagna, Representative Jordan, and Senator Brenner to tell them to support this fair funding plan. We need them to talk about it as well. And we need our residents, all you have to do, it was really easy in that email them right from that email or give them a call. And so many people have. I think Representative Carfagna said, "Oh yeah, we're here." He told Mr. Rafe, "Oh yeah, we're hearing from you." They need to continue to hear from us because there were a lot of districts and a lot of entities in that room today, and they have been there all week. The private schools were in there saying, we need a 3.7% increase. Well, you all know the private schools get $1,267 per pupil, and they want a 3.7% increase. When we get $575 per pupil, sorry. I think it's our turn. We need to be fair for the public school children, and we need to keep up those advocacy efforts.
Absolutely. And if you go to the treasurer's page on our website, there is a fair funding model or fair funding button or drop down that you can select that has links to not only the legislative websites to get more information about the budgets and the hearings and such, but also the fair funding plan. And information about our testimony today is also a part of public record out there from the legislative committee. So if you want to reach out and give me a call and ask for information, or if you want to check out their website, you can see those numbers and some of the statistics that we were sharing with the committee today to help tell our story, that the 200% is not our entire story, and there's a great story that we have to share here in our community about fiscal responsibility, about academic success, and a culture of excellence that continues to permeate through our community. So we were happy to have the opportunity to share that entire story today. It was good to do that.
Emily, I have a question for you.
Yes,
I know this funding is not set, far from it,
correct.
until the pen hits the paper. What type of an impact does this type of money have on our operating budget or in the district as a whole?
Sure. So right now, as it stands, it would be $10 million in fiscal '20 and another $9 million in the following year. So it really helps us improve our overall operating budget. It doesn't keep us off the ballot permanently. We are a locally funded district that will continue to have reliance on property taxes. But what it will do is help us either stretch the next levy cycle so we don't have to go back as soon, and or help us reduce the next millage rate to a lower rate so we're not taxing as much as we may have without it.
What's 10 million, about 3 mils? A little north of 3?
Yeah, we're at about $4.2 million per mill.
Okay. Comment it.
I was interested to see with the information that we've been receiving through our emails as well as your report and what you learned, that whole conversation about index is still an important part of the conversation, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
To me, it seemed like a while back it kind of went away, and then I see it resurfacing in conversation. What was it, been 2 years since Dr. Fleeter did that whole study about base one, and you go left or you go right, and all that formula stuff. So it's still in play, isn't it, that whole
Yes.
conversation?
Yes, it's still in play in the fair funding model. The approach that they're trying to take is to make it a more transparent calculation, a more consistent calculation, in that when we get our funding, we would be able to have a conversation with our community members about here's what the calculation is and what it means to us. Right now, that state share index calculation is so complicated. It's 3 pages of our funding report that you can't summarize quickly or easily. There's just too many moving parts to it. So, I think that that's a good component of it as well. And it also leads to our point of fair funding, in that, we're not expecting to be fully funded at the, the additional $43 million that the state is holding back from the funding model because of our cap currently. But it still takes a look at the community's ability to help educate their students. And I think that's important for the state of Ohio to hear from us as well, because we're not looking to deplenish funds from those communities that need it or don't have the same opportunity to support themselves that we do. But we do appreciate fair funding, and we would like to continue that part of the conversation.
Yeah, and I think, I'm glad that in your text and what you said to them dealt with that whole notion of fair funding in the sense of, hey, we're not asking you to defund schools that really need help. And that was the same message that was given a number of years ago when Dr. Lucas was superintendent, and we had testimony down at the State House, and we made that same comment about, we're just asking for fair funding. We understand that we can help districts that need help.
Well, we've been chasing Durrell for, 22, 23 years?
Right. Yes.
Come on.
Well,
Yes.
the encouraging thing that this is a bipartisan effort brought forth by, a representative who's Republican, a representative who's Democrat. There's a clear understanding now throughout the State House that the funding formula doesn't work. 82% of the districts in the state of Ohio don't get their full formula funding. So it doesn't work. The Fair School Funding Plan kind of flips that to give
Roughly 85% is what they were
85%
quoting.
would get their full formula funding. We still wouldn't until it's phased in. Right. So.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? No?
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Appreciate it.
And thanks for your testimony today.
People went in the cafe.
All right, it's the big reveal. So now we have item C, the branding presentation. Ms. Davis. No pressure.
No pressure. Zero pressure.
Can we do the drum roll?
We just need to make sure all that's working over there. Well, I appreciate the fact that Emily kind of led us to this point with talking about we have a great story to tell at Olentangy, and I think this presentation and what we've been able to develop really illustrates that amazing story that we have to tell about Olentangy. So it is my pleasure tonight to share the culmination of a lot of hard work by a lot of great people over the past 2 years. As always, we look to our strategic plan to guide our work. Under our learning and organizational development strategic priority, the goal of establishing our brand identity has been a primary focus in the communications department for the past 2 years. In the last decade or more, our district has experienced unprecedented growth, increased diversity, continued academic excellence, and so much more. Our brand defines our culture, so it's essential that it accurately represents who we are, what we believe, and what we value. This project also actually impacts a number of goals under the 3 other strategic priorities in the plan: resource stewardship, internal processes, and students and stakeholders. The 5 goals that are addressed by establishing our brand identity are highlighted on the screen. Through our brand development, we are able to add a new revenue stream, protect our asset, our brand, create efficiencies through brand standards, clarify our identity, and increase the quality of employee we attract through clearly defining what our organization values. In January, Mr. O'Brien outlined 3 key priorities for 2019 in his first remarks as the newly elected board president. These priorities are shared by all of us and are ones we continue to tackle on a daily basis. Our new brand identity speaks directly to the district experience. It will define our culture, differentiate who we are in relation to other school districts, guide communication, create consistency, and simplify decision-making. Our new brand identity will help clarify and provide an outstanding district experience. Before we move on to the next chapter of our district's brand identity, it's important to recognize from where we've come. Nearly 25 years ago, when Olentangy was home to just 2,500 students and 3 school buildings, a dedicated art teacher, Mr. Art Counts, created an image of a brother and sister who attended Olentangy schools waiting for the school bus. The image depicted the brother helping the sister and supporting her with books in hand. This student-centric artwork translated to the logo we've used for decades. This image has served us well and represented our students admirably. However, as we've grown and evolved, it has become essential to ensure that our brand represents who we are, what we believe, and what we value today. Our path to this moment has involved many individuals. During this process, we spoke with nearly 100 community members, staff, students, parents, alumni, and other key stakeholders. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our research participants who were a part of many conversations, focus groups, and one-on-one dialogue to help us understand our district's personality. You told us that Olentangy stands for opportunity, community, pride, excellence, and achievement, and we believe the new brand identity accurately reflects your thoughts and feelings. We also engaged a steering committee comprised of 16 community staff members and students. This committee spent countless hours in multiple meetings over the past year and a half, providing an immense support and guidance to not only this process, but to me as well. Some are able to be with us this evening, and I'd like to take a moment to recognize them for their support, wisdom, and candor. So if you are, there's a couple of you in the audience, if you would stand up and be recognized. Kristen, thank you. And the communications department should have been standing too. All of these folks put in a lot of extra time and patience with me through this process. So any journey worth taking finds some bumps in the road. And we did experience our fair share of bumps, twists, and turns in our journey. During those times, it would be much easier to continue forward and not acknowledge the challenge in the road. You get to your destination much quicker and are able to move on to the next important task. However, something I've learned along the way from our friend Ross Geller here and other leaders is that in the face of challenge, you have two options. You can persist or you can pivot. And so, although it added months to our process, we chose to pivot to ensure we got this right and developed a brand identity of which we could all be proud. Our journey brought us to our partner, Cult Marketing. It has been a pleasure to work together with the outstanding representatives of this company. Doug McIntyre, founder and CEO, and proud parent of Olentangy Schools graduates, Angie Homan, account strategist, and Kate Waltz, designer. While Angie is unable to join us, I'm pleased to introduce you to Doug and Kate this evening. Have us stand up and let us recognize you. Cult Marketing worked together with our participants on many exercises designed to help extract key insights about the personality of our district. One exercise asked participants to create went ahead one slide. Here we go. So excited. One exercise asked participants to create visual collages summarizing what our district represents to them. Common themes from the collage creations were images, words, and phrases such as high expectations, hardworking, opportunity, one community, hand-reaching, diversity, and sense of family. Through the interviews and conversations, stakeholders shared how they feel about Olentangy in numerous stories and explanations. The quotes on the screen are from parents, students, and staff members. So it's like a giant family, one of the top districts in Ohio, always growing, a close-knit community, even though it's so big, and all things that are right about public education. When I see these, I can't help but relate to these statements myself and agree with them. Olentangy is indeed a special place. The extensive research allowed us to clearly identify who we are, what we believe, and what we value. From this, we were able to select an image, a tagline, and brand pillars that we believe highlights and honors our unique district. So are you ready? The new video, which I'm about to share, illustrates the culture, energy, and excitement we find here at Olentangy. So there you have it. So exciting. So there's more to share. You will see that we are establishing our new brand from this moment forward. A foundation of our brand identity will be our brand pillars. Got crew here. So brand pillars help define the why of a company or organization, what it delivers to its customers or community. Olentangy Schools pillars are opportunity, community, educational excellence, personal achievement, pride, and exceptional value. The pillars clearly outline key benefits and competitive differentiators of our district today and in the years to come. One of the elements of our brand identity that I am most excited about is our tagline, Flourish Here. As you can see, flourish means to grow or develop in a healthy or vigorous way, especially as the result of a particularly favorable environment. That's exactly what happens here at Olentangy Schools. And not only do our students flourish here, but our staff members, our volunteers, parents, our overall community flourish here as well. As you can see, the logo features abstract figures with reaching arms that repeat in a circular star shape. The reaching arms, which came up multiple times in our research, reflect the essence of achievement and success. The color of the reaching arms, in Olentangy blue and turquoise, represent each student's individual and personal success. The circular shape of the illustration reflects how each individual contributes to the one Olentangy community. And ultimately, the pillars, the tagline, and the logo directly support our mission to facilitate maximum learning for every student. As we launch our new district brand identity, we are concluding phase 1 of our goal, establishing our brand identity. As we move forward, we will begin to update all touch points featuring the former logo and begin to educate all users of our district brand how to use it and when to use it. Looking ahead to phase 2 in the coming year, we will examine all brands and logos at each school level, establishing a school brand identity for elementary schools and updating the look and feel of the middle and high schools' brand identities. Ultimately, our desired outcomes will impact the district in numerous ways. The ability to have greater control over our name and likeness will allow us to create a revenue stream and improve our talent acquisition. We will be able to embrace and share our community pride and distinctive features of Olentangy, bringing a clear understanding of our culture to all. This will allow us to have a strategic direction and bring increased meaning to our district. I'd like to wrap up with a little story. Just earlier today, Mr. Wright and I met with a mom and dad, parents of one graduate and one current student here at Olentangy. During our conversation, we talked about why they chose to move to the district. Of course, their reason centered around our schools. They talked about their son and how well he's doing in college. As they described how prepared he was through our academic programs, electives, and opportunities outside the classroom, they said, and I quote, "His experience here at Olentangy really helped him flourish." I can't think of a better way to hear today from one parent that represents many, a resounding confirmation that we are helping students achieve, grow, and develop in a healthy or vigorous way, because that is the energy of Olentangy Schools. Thank you.
Questions or comments for Ms. Davis?
Before we have questions, we have some exciting gifts for you, because celebrating is part of the process. So we'd like you to enjoy the items we're providing you and proudly use them to begin to help establish our new identity.
Swipe bag.
So they're coming your way.
Don't buy the Talbot's dress that's in Olentangy.
Wow, thank you very much.
You did graduate.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's see it.
Yay! Oh.
Look at that.
So you have in there, Roger's holding up a brand guide, so that will be your guidebook to using the new brand, and in there you will have an FAQ as well.
Who's next? I can't open all the presents.
It's the brand guide. Oh, yeah, the water bottle. And there are treats afterward for everyone in the cafe. We have kind of a little party set up in there that we'd like everyone to join.
All right, look at that. Cool. Very nice. Look at that. See, there's the good.
There's a shirt.
But see, he's all the golf.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I may, I would like
That was a
to
great team
interject
effort.
just a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I really want to make sure that I say kudos to Krista and her department with this project. It really has been a long project. I know there was lots of frustration, but it was a wonderful experience to be a part of the group that was brought in and asked questions and, really tried to get at the heart of who we are. And I'm just very appreciative of where you got the committee to be and where we are today with this. I'm so excited for you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. So when you showed us some of what the community was saying on various boards, who came up with the round people? It was circular and it had people
In the collage?
Yeah.
I do not remember who that was, but there were multiple people that had either some sort of circular shape or raising hands together.
spot on, yeah.
Several of the collages. Wouldn't you say, Doug? Definitely.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, the elephant in the room, Krista, the
Yes.
Block O.
That's a great elephant in the room to address. So I have talked with anyone who's asked me about the Block O. Basically, our district has organically begun to use the Block O over a long period of time. And there is a rather large institution down the road that also uses the Block O. One of our goals with this project, which you heard me talk a little bit about throughout the presentation, is to create a new revenue stream. In order to create a new revenue stream for the district, we need to trademark and license our marks. And it's not just this beautiful new district mark, but it will be, as we move forward, the marks of all of our schools so that we can really have a great licensing program that brings in that revenue stream. Well, Ohio State is not going to allow us to trademark or license the Block O. So where we're using the Block O, we will not be able to continue to use that. The district was using it informally, trying to stick with the logo or the image that we saw earlier, but it has just evolved into something that most people have used, and definitely our school. So we'll be looking to update that look to something that we can trademark and license. Incidentally, there are other symbols and images that our high schools are using that are also trademarked by professional football teams or college universities, not just Ohio State. So we will be working together to not lose that integrity of who they are, but get them to a place where they're up to date and we can also trademark and license. And that's really that phase 2 piece. But in phase 1, we really will be embracing this mark and moving forward for the district.
So the fun's not over yet.
The fun is not over. Absolutely not.
Well, there's just been, over time, there's just been a proliferation of all of these different logos. Like one athletic team uses one logo and another one uses another one. And again, that dilutes our brand identity. And will dilute our ability to capture that revenue stream through trademark.
That's why the brand standards are important, right? So now you've at least established a base
Yep.
of expectation on how you can use it, how you can't use it, which I think will be important. Because it's going to be a journey, it's an evolution. We're not snapping the chalk line and say, okay, now everybody,
Right.
as of Monday, do this. we're going to kind of work our way into the standardization, which I think is important.
Exactly. And I think one of the pieces to that is tomorrow morning, I've asked each principal to have a staff meeting with their staff to introduce the brand. We will be sharing it later tonight on social media and on our website, but they have their own version of the presentation I just gave you with some modifications about using the brand and where to find the brand guide and start to really understand what it means to have that brand standard. And so they'll all have those meetings tomorrow morning in their individual buildings.
And what about the students?
So the students, I'm really excited about this. We embargoed the information to the broadcast journalism students at the different high schools. While Berlin doesn't have a broadcast journalism class yet, they have this information as well, and we've asked the students to share the information with the rest of the high school in whatever way they choose to share it. They have the video, they have the presentation, they have all the information that they need to deliver that message. So I'm excited to see how they choose to share that. But additionally, it's going to be on a pop-up on my OLSD for all students, parent or staff to, when they log in tomorrow, they will see that pop-up, which will include a brief statement and then the link to the video. And then additionally, we will be sending a digital parent newsletter tomorrow explaining this. And then if you recall, we have that hard copy newspaper newsletter that comes in your mailbox. That will be coming next week, and we'll have the majority of it will be about the new brand as well. And as well, our growth is in there as well, too.
You know, and we started this project when, obviously when our team came together 4 years ago as part of the initial 3-year phase of goals that we had for our team, and didn't get it done in that timeline, but we had some other things get in the way with maybe the levy and redistricting that maybe were a little more crucial to the district at that time, opening a high school, and kind of sidetracked. But Krista and her team and the committees did a lot of great work, and we're very appreciative of it. I think a lot of it actually started, Mr. O'Brien, with conversations we had years ago about capturing, trying to find another revenue stream.
Walking through Kroger and seeing a row of shirts and cups and glasses.
Yeah, and those are, but it really just started from little, I think, Roger, you were on board with a lot of that over the years. So, it grew into something bigger. I think it's going to be important for us to, there'll be a lot of questions from community members. Why are we doing this? How much money are we spending on it? And all those kinds of things. But that phase in over time of, especially at the elementary level, of establishing that brand identity for our elementaries and moving those forward will be crucial long term. And it just was time. As the 6th largest district in the state, a high-performing organization, we should have a specific brand. So, thank you.
Question, when does the sign go up on the building?
Well, we got through this first phase of all of this swag. That's next in hopefully early spring or early summer, rather. So we have that slated to be on our long list of things that we're working on together.
We've been trying, like for the last few years, we haven't been ordering stationery. We haven't been doing it, printing things, and trying to conserve spending on these things. Avoid Mr. Meyer. He's trying to get rid of his business cards as fast as he can. So if he sees you, he may just pass one out to you every time he sees you.
Well, and that's where a little bit you're going to have to manage it, right? Because people will have their best intentions in mind, and they're going to want to adopt it right away.
Sure.
And you're going to have to make sure we manage it so that you work through what you have first before you order new.
Absolutely. We have that in our FAQ that we would like people to repurpose what they have. We don't want people to throw anything away and waste good items that can be used for other things. So we address that in the staff presentation tomorrow and in the FAQs. Because we don't want that to happen. We want to, always be vigilant with our tax dollars.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you. Great job.
Yay!
Yes, exceptional value.
Oh, wow. Okay, the next item is Board President's Report. Again, I was going to cover the state budget. We've covered that, so we don't have anything in addition. I don't know if Facilities Committee update or no? Did you have
we had a good meeting the other night. The focus was on, Bill O'Sullivan did a wonderful report on comparing the different construction delivery methods. We have a unique position because of our growth, that we've done the traditional management of an owner's rep and design bid build and owner's rep, construction management at risk, a variety of construction methods. And he did a nice presentation of the advantages and disadvantages of those and how it worked out.
Okay.
So that was really good because that'll really play into our next facility to help make a decision of how to proceed.
Okay, great.
So that was really good. And they did also talk about projected costs of buildings. The focus was on Bill's report.
Okay, and the Audit and Finance Committee is meeting on Monday?
Yeah.
Monday evening?
Tax day.
Tax day?
Yeah.
Appropriate.
How appropriate.
The doom and gloom.
And again, I think it's important to note that we have not incorporated any kind of change in funding to the forecast, because it would be premature. I do remember it was a couple of years ago, a district got ahead of themselves and they put it in, and then it changed, and then they were in trouble. So I think it's a prudent course of action to go with what we know, and then we can always amend it between now and October. Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Ray for the superintendent's report. Can you get up all right with that thing on your arm?
Mr. Rafe, I have a question to start you off. Was the Berlin colors, was that part of Mr. Spinner's contract when he signed it?
It's not Berlin colors, it's turquoise.
Okay, well, you know, I've got 57-year-old eyes, so to me, blue
Well, it
is
depends
blue.
on what screen you look at.
But he's very happy.
What's the
Yes,
PMS number?
he's been smiling all night, so. Okay, just want to make sure. I like that slide, though, by the way, right there. Very
Yeah,
nice.
we're bringing it forward.
There you go.
Catchy.
It was, again, it was a great process, and we really, you know, I had a meeting with to talk about that process, but I had a meeting today, or with a parent today about interdistrict transfers, and the parent was appealing a decision we made, and explained it. You know, they said it was hard for us to do this because we typically like to follow the rules and just do what we're told to do, but we really have questions and concern. I said it's fine that you question the process or appeal the decision. It forces us to come back and really reflect about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and really that makes us better. And again, this, with regards to this process, it was a long process, but I think the end result was certainly worth that work. So. With that, as always, we start with our Living Our Mission slides. I'm going to congratulate Satvik Poraju for winning the National Geographic Geography Bee for Ohio. He now gets to go to D.C. This competition actually was brought forth by some parents at Olentangy Meadows a few years ago, and they've kind of run with it, but now it's happening all throughout the district. So congratulations to Satvik, and we wish him well in D.C. Coming up next Tuesday, April 16th, we'll be hosting our second military signing day. Orange and Liberty have combined their events. I know Olentangy will be doing one also in the future, but this was a great event. A lot of community support at it, so that'll be Tuesday night in the Orange Theater. So if you're available, it really is a great event. I'm sure you all followed the Liberty boys basketball team as they made a historic run to the Final Four. It's a great accomplishment, great group of kids, very close, big senior class, very close, and all throughout the community, because we went down to the game at the Shot, and while their outcome wasn't what they wanted, they played hard, stayed in the game the whole time, and just had an outstanding season. So congratulations to Coach Nossman and the Liberty boys basketball team. I will say this senior class at Liberty has had just an incredible experience. If you go from this calendar year of last year winning the state baseball title, football was in the Final Four, volleyball was in the Final Four, boys soccer was in the Final Four, and now boys basketball in the Final Four. So they got a heck of a senior class over there. So with regard to some action items coming up, I do want to highlight some retirements here. Carla Meyer, who's been with us in food service for about 15 years, is retiring as one of our assistant food service supervisors. There are 3 longtime staff members. Julie Brown has a special place in my heart. She was an English teacher for a couple of my children. Linda Bruff has been the literacy support teacher at Olentangy Meadows since it opened and has been in the district for a long, long time. And Nancy Policino, who has been at Shanahan Middle, Orange Middle, and now Hyatt's Middle. Does a great job, and she's kind of the one who started the Veterans Day assemblies and all the military appreciation stuff we've done, so thank them for their service. And then finally, Deb Giamarco has been the building secretary at Olentangy High School for about 16 years or so, so good luck, Mr. Griffiths. You always find out how valuable your assistant is when you have to replace them, so I wish all of them well in retirement. We have a number of action items I want to highlight. We are establishing a student organization for Olentangy Special Olympics. The Delaware County Special Olympics program has kind of gone away. So we was brought forward to us by some parents that we establish our own Special Olympics program. So we are starting that student organization so they can now establish a fund and do fundraising, but they're going to come together all throughout the district and provide Special Olympics programs for our students. I actually, at the testimony after you left, Mrs. Fees, we heard a presentation from a adaptive sports program. And there are actually 11 schools in the state of Ohio who have competing sports teams for wheelchair basketball. So I got the ladies' card, and something I'm going to be talking to our athletic directors and principals about, because I think that's something we certainly would want here in Olentangy. There are a number of items on the agenda related to our our expansion projects at Allen Creek, Arrowhead, Souter Ridge, and Allen Creek, Arrowhead, Wyandotte Run. And in addition, since our bids came in lower than anticipated, we're able to enhance the security vestibules also at Souter Ridge, since it's the same layout as those buildings. The security cameras and the technology purchases for the new classroom, the 18 new classrooms in those additions, are also on this agenda. And then, as always, we have our spring asphalt purchase. Be nice, nobody draw attention to Mr. O'Brien. I think we're going to start talking about it. Mr. King, we're going to give you that one now for the future, since you're in the facility. So.
Good job.
That's always big. Obviously, we have a lot of asphalt in this district, and it needs to be maintained. So, I want to just highlight a picture, and Mr. Runyon's here. I don't know if Bruce, you want to kind of describe how that looks? This is the new visitor security entrance for.
Yeah.
That is for Wyandotte Run and Allen Creek. You're all looking here, so I'll look here, and the heck with that.
There you go.
So the existing entry vestibule is here. And what we're doing with the office is we want to capture these folks as they're coming in the building and have the administration be able to look and see who's coming in before they buzz them into the building. And instead of buzzing them in just the front door and then they're in the corridors, now they're going to be buzzed into the office. They're going to be stopped by that. So we're not changing the security device that's at the front door now. They still have the camera. They'll get buzzed into this vestibule, which will lead into this. This will be an aluminum framed and glass to match what we have in that lobby area. It has an open air ceiling, if you will, but still a ceiling so someone can't crawl up into it. This was done intentionally to try to not spend a whole lot more money, get into the ceiling, get into the sprinkler system, get into lighting and HVAC work. We're cutting then a door into the office areas, and before they get into the office, the administration of that will be able to look physically at that person, see if they're agitated, see what they're carrying, and make a judgment, do we let these people into the office? If they don't, then those people can only go one way, and that's right back out the front door if they are not let into the office. So it is a similar thing at Scioto Ridge, and this is Scioto Ridge and Arrowhead. This one's a little bit bigger because those lobbies were made a little bit smaller when the buildings were made a little bit smaller when we went from the wind-out run plan to the Arrowhead and Scioto Ridge plan. But a similar idea there. We just, because of the width of the lobby, we had to modify that and add some doors. But again, these will be locked down when the students are in the building, and people will be going then directly into the office.
So,
Go ahead. No, you
so
go.
Bruce, so they'll enter then into the office, so really, then there's another door that they have to get out to get into the school, so it's like, kind of like double, right?
There is another door to get into the school, but
Yeah.
that is not being locked down.
Okay.
Okay, that's an option that was discussed. We discussed that with Development Committee. We discussed it with, I'm sorry, I'm going to forget Joe's last name.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Joe was part of this, Development Committee was part of this, and so this worked out very well. Joe's a big help on the security issues. That was a great move on the district to bring him in and have his input as we're doing buildings or modifications like this.
That was my question, too.
Well, my question is, will we require sign-in in this holding room? Because a lot of people don't sign in, they don't go to the office.
I won't get into those procedures, but I know
Yeah, they
that-
have to go into the office. They will have to physically go into the office and sign in. And we've been working with technology on updating, there's technology available that helps the sign-in process. They sign themselves in, they get a printed badge,
And we've roughed in.
all underneath, all while being supervised.
Exactly. And we've roughed in for the future of that technology, if you want, that can happen then before they even get in the office. It can happen in that new vestibule that's being built. If you go with that technology, that was something that came out of discussions with Joe and Joe's discussion with the office staff as they continue to talk about security in the schools.
Will they have to go back out through the office and then out that exit when they leave the building?
They can. It can be used as an exit right back out.
Well, yeah, they have to sign out. We ask that they sign out.
You ask that they
There's
sign
no,
out.
there would be no guarantee that they just wouldn't walk out. Controlling like, especially the kids in the buildings, is a lot easier than controlling adults, unfortunately. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll take any questions you want to.
I have
Anything
one
from Mr.
more.
Reed?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I got caught up in that hockey thing last night, but I had every intention of watching In the Know and totally forgot. How did the
yeah.
Liberty High School finals do?
Do one?
We're allowed to announce that now?
Yeah, it was on TV last night.
Oh, okay, yes. They did. That actually happened. That happened a few months ago, or weeks ago. We just couldn't, it was embargoed. Yeah, they won. They won it.
I didn't realize. Oh, I guess I did know that, actually. The Voice.
Underdogs, and I will say, forward that we beat Dakota Garvey.
Well, the last couple wins were pretty good. Congratulations.
And by the way, I went to high school with the coaches. Isn't that small world? I'm from Milford, Michigan, and the two coaches grew up in my subdivision. Thought that is a very small world, so.
All right.
Oh, the town halls?
Oh, yeah.
We did start yesterday. We started a series of town hall presentations. Emily and I did a presentation to about 30 people. Mrs. Patrick and Mrs. Fiesel were there. Discussed kind of our strategic plan, the key components of our strategic plan, how it came to be, and then of course talked about the two things that we always talk about, which are school funding and enrollment growth. It's great. Actually, it was a great crowd. We had about 30 people in attendance, and they were all. It was interesting because they really weren't a lot of people that we had ever seen before at events. So it wasn't just our typical audience. They asked great questions. They were very engaged. I was, of course, funny and charming, but it would.
Must be the medication.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And spoke longer than he was
Check the
supposed to,
levels,
right,
spoke
Mrs.
longer.
Davis?
All right, that's enough for Mr. Ray.
There are 3 more town halls coming up.
Every Wednesday.
Yeah, are the
Yep.
dates posted on the website?
Yep.
They're the next
And they're-
3 Wednesdays, right?
They sent out in 2 emails.
We sent it out in 2 emails and it was on social media, but good high school and on the website. Everyone will be coming to the website
To look at your new brand.
All right, next item is the treasurer's report. Ms. Saffield?
Absolutely. Just a quick update on where we are with budgeting. Of course, we've been following our state funding, as we've already presented, but this is also our budgeting for the district as well. So we have completed the budget process for our buildings and our staff. Those have been turned in and are compiled, and we have rolled them into the May forecast. We met with a subcommittee of the Finance and Audit Group to go over the budget details and take a look at that information before we did so. But we will meet again with the entire committee, as previously stated, next Monday at 6 o'clock here at Central Office to actually do a presentation of the 5-year forecast draft and talk about the assumptions and the information within it. We will bring that forward to the board as a first reading on May 7th. And then ask for approval on at the May 23rd meeting. So more to come on the forecast. Tonight, as far as agenda items, we have 2 standard items, I would say. Of course, our minutes to be compliant with Ohio Revised Code from previous meetings. And we also have several donations that we would like to recognize. We have $500 to purchase a track high jump mat from First Choice Chiropractic to Hyatt's Middle School Athletics. We have iPad donated from Kathleen Stoller to Olentangy High School SLC program. 2 Apple MacBook Pros from Balfour Yearbooks, Jenny Hahn, to Olentangy High School Journalism and Yearbook. We have $500 for the Teachers Employee Benefit Fund from Mike and Jessica Resnick, or known as upcart.com, for Olentangy Academy. And then we also have several donations from our athletic boosters for additional coaching. There's a donation from the Olentangy Athletic Boosters for the cross coach at Olentangy High School. We have a donation from Liberty Lacrosse Boosters for Liberty High School, and a donation from Olentangy Orange Athletic Boosters for basketball at Orange High School. As always, we're very grateful for each and every donation that we receive, not only in dollars, but also for volunteer hours and in-kind donations that are not recognized on this list. So thank you to our community for their support and time. With that, we'll take any questions you may have.
Okay, anything from Ms. Hatfield? Nope. All right, do we have anything for public participation?
No, we do not.
All right, so we'll roll right into the discussion items. So the first discussion item is the first reading of board policy updates with Dr. Fetty.
Good evening. Our policy committee met in March to review the policies that you have in your packet. There are 16 policies for a variety of reasons have come up through House Bill 318, the Auditor of State, Office of Civil Rights, USDA, kind of a smorgasbord of reasons for policy revisions. We also have 4 policies on social media specifically. Neola did a long project to develop some social media policies, given its prevalence now. And we have 3 district requested policy revisions you've seen there as well. Are there any questions on the policies?
I have a question. You added a Narcan policy?
Yes.
Do we carry that in our schools?
We will after the adoption of the policy. That was through the recommendation of Mr. Swazi as well, as the county sheriff's department is in support of that.
In every school, like the elementary to high school?
It will be available in each school. Certain personnel will be trained to administer it. It's a nasal spray.
Right.
Basically, the nurses, the SROs will have access to it if needed.
I had a question about that. If it's after school hours event and we have the Boy Scouts in one of our elementary schools, I know that the policy stated that we would have Narcan stored with the defibrillators.
Yes.
But that's only access during school hours?
Yes. So I don't know that after school, like when the Boy Scouts are there, somebody who's trained to administer the Narcan likely will not be present. So it won't be universally necessarily available. But during the school day, for our purposes, it will be.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dr. Fetty. The Next discussion items are resource adoptions. Peggy McMurray, Director of Curriculum.
And I also have Mr. Warfield here with me this
Mr.
evening.
Warfield.
Good to see Mr. Warfield.
Him with us on our team. We're so enjoying him on the curriculum team. I almost feel like I need to take off my blue block O.
Oh, yeah. Where's their buttons?
Yeah, I know.
Just don't wear it on campus. The campus.
The campus instead of this campus.
Right.
All right. So we do have a presentation, just a very brief presentation, because I know we want to get into the cafe and really celebrate what we have tonight here as well. So Krista will try and be brief for you. So thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. We do have 2 items that we would like to purchase, and we have discovered that we've had a need to update some of our resources. And so we began looking at some of our resources that are really pretty dated that we've used in our district. And one of the things that we noticed was that our middle school digital math resource, our current online subscription that we have with Math in Focus for our middle school students, will expire at the end of this school year. So we knew that we needed to look at other resources. And I'll have Mr. Warfield talk you through what he's done with this year with this resource.
So with the expiration of Math in Focus, we began this process in 17-18 and continued it this year. So what we did is we piloted a few resources. We piloted Study Island, Moby Max, Freckle Math, and McGraw-Hill's Alex. What we found was that Alex was the resource that our teachers liked the most, and was the resource that we found would be the one that we wanted to go with. Alex is aligned to the standards. It has great student engagement, allows our teachers to differentiate instruction, and has clarity and flexibility. So what teachers will do with Alex is they'll use their knowledge checks to assess students' progress, and based on those pre-assessments, Alex will pinpoint the gaps that our students have in their learning. The teachers can then look at the reports that they will get from Alex, and they can group students based on their needs. They can assign problems to students in the system that will also offer interventions, and they can also use these for extension problems as well. We presented Alex to our teachers, principals, and our parent continuous improvement committee, and we received great reviews. So pending your approval of this resource, we would like to add this to the 19-20 school year. We'd like to purchase a 3-year license for 5,200 student seats, and then we'd provide training immediately starting this year.
How intensive is the training for the teachers to analyze the data that Alex provides?
So we will do, starting actually in 2 weeks, we'll bring in all of our math coaches. Our math coaches have gone through this training before. So what we will do is we'll bring our math coaches in. Our math coaches will sit through with the Alex trainer. We have a specific trainer for Alex that actually lives in Big Walnut. So we will have access to the trainers on a regular basis. We will then, next step in the training process is we will have those trainers go out to all 5 middle schools before we get out of school, so they can sit down and our teachers have an opportunity to look at the resource before we leave for the summer. And then we will continue training again when they get back, once they've got into the tool just a little bit, so they are completely comfortable with the tool and they feel great using it.
Anything else?
Well, I do have one other question.
Mm-hmm.
So it does an assessment for all math students. So,
Yes.
so we have to move our technology around to do the assessment, I'm assuming?
So when you say move the technology?
Well, every math student would have to have a device.
Right, so we would be able, our middle schools do have Chromebooks, so they would use the Chromebooks that we have in our buildings right now to go through and assess those students. So yes, they would have access to Chromebooks in the middle schools and they would use them for that purpose.
In grades 6 through
8.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And then the next item that I would like to present to you for purchase is our elementary book room purchase. And the principals, elementary principals and literacy support at the elementary levels have said we need to update our book rooms. I've heard this for 3 years since or 4 years since I came into this role. And quite honestly, our elementary book rooms, many of them have not been updated since the buildings have been built and the books came with the building, so to speak. If the book rooms have been updated, it's been a result of principals finding money in their principal fund, as well as PTOs being very generous and supportive. So it really is time to come to some consistency with our book rooms. The
product that we found met our needs the best was the Fontes and Pinnell, the guided reading collection, and these are already in the book rooms. We are just providing some new and updated titles. Our teachers currently use them. There's not really a lot of training that needs to go along with these books. It's just, like I said, new and different titles. And actually, each building would get 200 new titles, which is really pretty amazing. And as well, the Fontes and Pinnell goes right along with our benchmark assessment system, what we use for some diagnostics. Another item that we would like to purchase also is our interactive read aloud collections. And with the read aloud collections comes teacher resources, and the beauty about the interactive read aloud, it's a wide range of diverse text sets, which we know that we need in our buildings. And with the interactive read aloud collections, each building will get 480 new titles, which is really, really nice. We will take delivery on these as soon as possible, as soon as we get your approval. And so, it'll be nice to have them in the hands and, get them to the teachers, yet this year, and literacy support folks can get them in the book rooms. We did present this to the teachers and to principals as well as our parent continuous improvement committee. And they looked at the books, and it was hard peeling the books back out of their hands so that we could, put them back to the publisher. So thank you for your attention and your approval on this later on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No? All right, thank you. Okay, Ms. Hatfield, would you please present the treasurer action items?
Yes, please. I would like to present treasurer action items A and B for approval, please.
So moved. I'll second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
Mr. Bartz.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
And Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Rafe, would you please present the superintendent action items?
Yes, sir. Present superintendent action items A through J for approval.
So moved.
A second.
Any discussion on the superintendent action items? Please call the roll.
Mr. Bartz.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
And Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before I meant to have it in my superintendent's report. Our next reminder that our next meeting is at
Olentangy High School. Yes.
I was just going to edit that. Okay.
It's on the
24th?
25th.
25th.
Yeah, so 2 weeks from tonight, Olentangy High School, 6:30, bring your plaque.
Bring your plaque.
Okay. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second, please. Okay, call the roll.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
Mr. Bartz.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
And Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.